It is another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the first 3 new releases for the summer 2009 movie season on May 1st, 2009. And, of course, last year we saw the beginning of a groundbreaking cinematic universe, thanks in large part to Iron Man. It was also the summer of The Dark Knight as well. It was a great summer for superhero movies, and sure enough, Marvel is opening up the summer once again with another big superhero movie, so let's see what they've got up their sleeves this time around. Let's see this year's Iron Man, ladies and gentlemen.
You can live knowing that the woman you loved was hunted down, or you can join me. We're putting together a special team. I promise you will have your revenge. On May 1st, the summer begins. X-Men Origins Wolverine. This film is now rated May 1st.
I said this year's Iron Man, not this year's Batman and Robin. Yes, their big summer movie that was opening up the summer movie season was, of course, X-Men Origins Wolverine. And, considering that, Tom Rothman, the head of Fox, loved the character of Wolverine so much, and yet he hated the X-Men so much, you would think that he'd do everything he can to make this origin story of Wolverine work out in the movie, but prepare yourself to be extremely disappointed. Directed by Gavin Hood, this is a prequel to the X-Men film trilogy, focusing on the violent past between the mutant Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, and his relationship with his brother, Victor Creed, played by Lee Schreiber. The plot also details Wolverine's early encounters with Major William Stryker, played by Danny Huston, his time with Team X, and the bonding of Wolverine's skeletons with the indestructible metal adamantium during the Weapon X program. And yeah, this movie took the origin story of one of the coolest characters in superhero history and completed a totally fabricated story of how Wolverine came to be that is literally just a ripoff of Universal Soldier. That's not even a joke. That's the biggest problem with the movie. You took the origin of one of the most badass characters in superhero history and dumped it into a plot that you'd see out of a Universal Soldier's movie. I mean, this is a film that somebody once said was literally a Universal Soldier movie when they reviewed it, and that's exactly what this is. It's unbelievable how bad this movie is. This script is filled with so many bad cliches that we've seen done in action movies before. We've got the death of the lover who's not really dead and is working for the bad guy. And we've got the government going after the hero. We got people walking away from explosions. It's all here. And it just shows the piss-poor effort they went to writing this film. I mean, it gets so lazy that they literally throw in... I'll get to that in just a second here, because we'll save that for a little bit later on in here, but... It's all that is in this movie, and it just shows the piss-poor effort they went into making this movie. And you'd think by 2009 we'd get away from these, but nope. They went down the route of Batman and Robin and Superman 4: The Quest for Peace to make the worst 4th movie in a superhero installment possible. And yeah, I mean, we really should, but in all honesty, we probably should have expected that from the same person that wrote Swordfish and Hitman. Not the best movies you want to be associated with if you're coming in to do this. The action is lazy and unnecessary. It felt like they throw in useless action all over this movie for no reason but to just keep your attention on whatever garbage is on the screen. And it has no purpose or no conjunction with the script whatsoever. Like, this script is one of the most abysmal things I've ever seen in my life played out on a big screen. The sets are also terrible. You look at the sets that they used to film this on, and you think, where did the $190 million to go on this movie? Like, you spent $190 million, and this is the best you can come up with? Like, these looks like something out of a high school play production. My high school that I went to, that's down the street from me, could do a better production than this movie does. And this doesn't cost, they're not using $190 million of a studio budget to make the film. Like, I can't believe how bad these sets are in here. Like, where did it all go? Did it go into the pockets of Hugh Jackman? Possibly, because Hugh Jackman is the biggest star in this movie. I mean, he was hosting the Oscars that year, so I guess his star power was all the way up. It basically said, I'm not doing this until I get a good payday, so here you go, we'll put that into the budget, because I have no idea where $190 million went to this pile of garbage. But let's get back to the story and the script, which... My biggest problem with this movie comes from the script and the elements they bring into the story of Wolverine, including trying to make him indestructible by making him destructible. How's that supposed to work? Like, seriously, what does that... You're going to make him indestructible, so let's make him destructible. How does that even work? It makes no sense whatsoever. Then you got to have Wolverine making the X when he breaks out of Stryker's lab, because that's a trailer shot right there. And instead of it just being a trailer shot, no, we got to put it in the movie. Even though that did not happen when we saw the original origin story in the X-Men movies. We've already seen this part of the storyline. Now you're just changing it because you're trying to make it look cool and all that. But the biggest one of all, the biggest one that made me go, "What the hell were you thinking?" Wolverine spends time on a farm with a couple a la Superman. Not even a joke. That is the biggest fuck you of this movie, when you literally have to steal from your direct competitor with Superman. Not even a comic book character from Marvel. You had to go to DC and rip off the Superman storyline. At this point, DC Comics should have every right to sue your asses for what you did to them. And while they're at it, they should also sue the makers of the '94 Fantastic Four movie for ripping off the Superman cartoon as well, because that happened in that movie too. And the casting in here is just really bizarre. You've got good actors in here. Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth should have been awesome, but he's really just lackluster, and he's not even trying in here. Like, there's a part where, like, Wolverine walks away, and of course his name is Jimmy, and, Liev Schreiber is just standing there with a blanket's expression screaming, "Jimmy! Jimmy! Jimmy!" Like, you want to try again? You want to try to get some more emotions in there, buddy? Lynn Collins as Kayla Silverfox. Talk about one of the most blandest characters ever. This is not a bad actress, and there's a good idea of what to do with her. But no, we got to make her we got to make her work with a bad guy. Why? Because we got to have a plot here. I mean, like, her entire character in this movie makes no sense whatsoever, and there's potential there, but it's just a bland character who's just there to lure the character with the bad guy, Danny Huston's William Stryker, who is Saturday morning cartoonishly evil in this. Like, he's not even a legitimate threat in this movie. It's unbelievable how you wasted not only this great actor, but this performance on here, and just all the other characters in here are bad. Taylor Kitsch's Gambit is really bad. Will.i.am as John Wraith, Kevin Durant as the Blob. I mean, the Blob was just awful watching this movie, and they had to throw in the cheap jokes in there. Blob, Dominic Monaghan as Chris Bradley, and Scott, the two biggest ones, of course, Scott Adkins as Weapon X, and of course, Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. I don't think I need to explain why both of them are so terrible, but I think they've been done to death before so many times, and hey, Ryan Reynolds got his revenge on this in Deadpool at the end of Deadpool 2, so there you go. And Deadpool and Wolverine got to work together in a much better movie than this. I mean, this movie does not do anything in this movie with these characters except for fan service. I mean, Patrick Stewart as Professor X shows up in here. It's the worst makeup I have ever seen in my life. Like, they're trying to make it look like he's younger, but it doesn't even look like him. He looks like the dude from Die Another Day, except if you shave his head off. Like, that's how bad it looked. Like, and then the bad guy in Die Another Day was an Asian, too. So they made Patrick Stewart look like a freaking Asian in this movie. Like, is there anything about this movie that's worth it? I guess maybe Hugh Jackman, because, yeah, it's Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. He's still awesome. Even with all the stuff that's going on in this movie, Wolverine, the character himself, is still badass, and I give Hugh Jackman all the credit in the world for sticking with this terrible script and not staying away from what we love about him as Wolverine, because he's the one thing that's holding this together to some form of relevancy. But other than that, though, there's absolutely nothing about X-Men Origins Wolverine that works at all. This fails on so many levels. It was clearly made by people who had no intentions on following the actual origins of Wolverine and just decided to throw in the most cliched action plot ever into a piss-poor superhero movie that nearly killed the X-Men franchise for all times. I mean, this is still the worst X-Men movie ever. Now, granted, I've never seen the New Mutants, but actually, no, I might take that back, because we've had Dark Phoenix. Dark Phoenix was terrible. So was X-Men Apocalypse, which I would probably put this... I'd actually probably put this ahead of those two movies, honestly. So now, yeah, it's no longer the worst X-Men movie, but this nearly killed the X-Men franchise. And, it's a movie where it just doesn't work at all. It's a terrible movie, and it's a perfect fitting conclusion to Tom Rothman completely fucking over the fan bases of three beloved franchises in the early part of 2009, because he fucked over the fans of Street Fighter, he fucked over the fans of Dragon Ball, and then he fucked over the fans of X-Men, which, the fact that he loves Wolverine and this is the best he can come up with, I really don't think he likes Wolverine. This is like the equivalent of M. Night Shyamalan saying, "Oh, I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. Let me make a movie off of that," and then he makes one of the worst movies of all time. But that's next summer, though. But There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the way we start off the summer of 2009 with X-Men Origins Wolverine. Certainly not the best way to begin the summer, but maybe we can turn the tide around with our next movie. Matthew McConaughey and Jennifer Garner starring in the romantic comedy Ghost of Girlfriend's Past.
You know where I come out on all this. To me, love is a myth.
This always happens. All scotch, no carbs.
On May 1st, you're going to be visited by 3 ghosts.
I'm going to take you through all your past girlfriends.
Ooh.
Relive your past.
I have a medical condition.
What's your medical condition?
Broken heart.
And change your future.
You're supposed to be with me. She was always supposed to be with me.
Matthew McConaughey, Jennifer Garner, Ghosts of Girlfriends Past. Rated PG-13. Starts May 1st at a theater near you.
So if I was to tell you that on a weekend where you have a new X-Men movie with Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine in the focus of it, and you have a Matthew McConaughey romantic comedy, which movie would you probably say was going to be the better movie? Your first guess probably would have been X-Men Origins Wolverine, but believe it or not, this is the best movie that came out this weekend. This is the film that you look at it and it's just like, wait, you're picking the Matthew McConaughey romantic comedy over Wolverine? What the hell's wrong with you? Well, I've already talked about why X-Men Origins Wolverine is so terrible, but let me tell you why Ghost of Girlfriend's Past is a fantastic movie. This is probably my favorite Matthew McConaughey romantic comedy he ever did, and probably one of his best movies overall. And it's a really interesting concept overall. In the film, you have him playing Connor Mead, a photographer and a womanizing bachelor who returns to his family's estate for the wedding of his brother Paul to Sandra, Paul being played by Breckin Meyer, to Sandra, played by Lacey Chabert. Then he encounters Jenny Parati, played by Jennifer Garner, former girlfriend and childhood sweetheart who has served as wedding planner. Connor offends most of the guests by declaring his disdain for romance and marriage and attempting to convince Paul not to go through with the wedding. That evening, he is visited by the ghost of his late uncle, played by Michael Douglas, who raised him after his parents' death in a car accident and mentored him in the ways of womanizing. Wayne tells Connor that he will be visited by 3 ghosts that night, and we'll learn something important about himself. So, as you can tell, you know, as you can guess, the rest of the story involves Connor's interaction with the 3 ghosts. The Ghost of Girlfriend's Past, played by Emma Stone. The Ghost of Girlfriend Present, played by Noreen DeWolf, who plays his assistant. And the Ghost of Girlfriend's Future, played by Olga Maliok. And eventually tries to convince everybody he's changed by the end of the movie. So yeah, obviously this is basically a romantic comedy equivalent to A Christmas Carol, the Charles Dickens story. And I've said before that A Christmas Carol is one of my all-time favorite stories of all time. I love watching all the adaptations of this. I mean, this is one of my favorite stories of all time. And needless to say, if I had to choose the better adaptation of the story, we're going to have a Christmas Carol version coming out at the end of the year, which is really good. But this really is my favorite story my favorite one of the 2 in 2009. This was a really good movie. Like, I was actually amazed and blown away at how much I really enjoyed this movie. And I'm the type of guy that hates Matthew McConaughey's romantic comedies. We all did at some point. He was making some really bad movies. You know, Failure to Launch, Fool's Gold. I mean, this guy could be a really good actor. We've seen it early in his career and stuff like Boys on the Side and A Time to Kill and Contact and Amistad. I mean, this guy was a solid actor. And then he just kind of fell down this rabbit hole where he had no choice but to star in terrible romantic comedies, and every once in a while he'd have one which wasn't terrible, like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days wasn't the best, but it was certainly better than some of the ones he'd do later on. But what this movie does that works is trying to create a movie based off of a Christmas story and not bring Christmas time up whatsoever. The movie is set in the winter time, and you never hear about it being Christmas time one time in this movie. And that credit, I think, should go to the writers of this movie, John Lucas and Scott Moore, who will have a much bigger success later on down the road with The Hangover in the month. And Matthew McConaughey's character is not as harsh as Ebenezer Scrooge is, but he is nothing but a jackass and a scoundrel in the first 2/3 of the movie, and that's what I kind of like about him in this movie. At first, you want to hate him for being such a douchebag, because, yeah, he is kind of a douchebag who just wants to bang a ton of women. There's a great opening scene in there that's really funny where, you know, he's breaking up with 3 different women on a conference call of all things. On a conference call of all things, while he has a girl in the back, played by Christina Milian, which is really funny. I love the fact that he's trying to cover it up with cover the computer with the camera on there and saying, like, don't listen to them, they're crazy. And the girl's just like, hey, we can still hear you even if you don't have the camera on them, because the mic is still on. Just like, stuff like that works really well in this movie, and I like that. At first, you do want to hate him because he is being such a douchebag, but surely as time goes on, and he's shown all the memories and all the guilt that he's causing to everyone around him, and what it'll eventually lead up to, you do root for him in a way. And it also should be noted that Matthew McConaughey is in a romantic comedy where he doesn't take his shirt off every 20 seconds. I mean, yeah, we get it. The guy's got 6-pack abs that are there. I mean, I certainly don't have that, but he does. And, like, we get it. We don't need you to take your damn shirt off every 20 seconds, because that kind of makes you look like a douchebag. And what's interesting about this movie and the parallels to his career going after this is just the fact that, you know, this is very similar to what happened to Bill Murray with Scrooge. I mean, Scrooge is essentially a comedy, but there is those dramatic elements to it where you realize that Bill Murray's not just playing the guy from Ghostbusters. This guy has range as an actor. I mean, he tried to do a drama after Ghostbusters came out with The Razor's Edge, which wasn't a big hit, and wasn't really a great movie overall, but his performance really did show that this guy has some potential as a dramatic actor that would later be seen in Lost in Translation and Broken Flowers and a number of great dramatic movies. And here, Matthew McConaughey's kind of in that pathway too. After this, he didn't do another romantic comedy after this movie, as far as I know. Yeah, this was actually the last romantic comedy he ever did. I mean, he was in other comedies, like the Sing movies, of course, playing Buster the Koala. But after this, what was his next movie? The Lincoln Lawyer. What was the next movie after that? Bernie, Killer Joe, Mud, Magic Mike, The Paperboy, the movie where he won the Oscar with Dallas Buyers Club, The Wolf of Wall Street, Interstellar, Kubo and the Two Strings. Like, he makes all these movies. Not a single comedy is in that slate whatsoever. Like, it's amazing how this was the movie that really turned it around for him. And I'm really happy to see that. At least we got one really good romantic comedy out of him with this movie. And it also helps that he's got a really good supporting cast around him. Jennifer Garner's pretty good in here. Michael Douglas, Emma Stone as the ghost of Girlfriend's Past, Robert Forster, Ann Archer, Breckin Meyer, Lacey Chabert. They all work really well. And you do buy into the chemistry of McConaughey and Garner. You do believe that these two were childhood lovers at one point, and then they kind of steered away, but they still have affections for each other. It plays very well. Their chemistry is really good, and I've always said it. Good chemistry between your two stars is the key to a good romantic comedy. Even the blandest, most bad romantic comedy can benefit with good chemistry between your two stars. And both McConaughey and Garner really have that in this movie. And it also helps you've got a really good director, Mark Waters, who did Freaky Friday and Mean Girls, and then he also did the underappreciated Just Like Heaven. This guy knows how to make good romantic comedies. So yeah, and there are a lot of flaws to the movie. It's not a perfect movie, and even then, the biggest flaw with the movie, it does go with the same rom-com cliches we've seen done to death before. There's got to be the misunderstanding. There's got to be the awkward hello. There's got to be the X factor. I mean, unless you can do something different with it, don't use it. Just try to be original with this film as much as you can. But here's the thing that really bugs me about this movie overall, and the fact that the predictable romantic comedies make $100 million at the box office, and even the bad ones, but this movie barely made $55 million. I mean, it's bad, but when you consider it opened up on X-Men Origins Wolverine opened up, I mean, considering that, it still did a whole lot better. And I think this movie would have done a lot better if it had been released on the holidays or Valentine's weekend. I feel like this could have been a really good Valentine's movie to open up on this one. Like if you open up where he's just not into you open up on. I feel like this movie could have done so much better. It's a film that deserved to do much better because it is a really good movie. It's a very entertaining film. It has a lot of flaws, but it's still a very pleasant, surprising movie. I mean, this is the best Matthew McConaughey has been in a romantic comedy. The chemistry between him and Jennifer Garner is great. The movie works really well. There's a lot of funny moments. I like the new take of A Christmas Carol they try to do outside of Christmas. I mean, the flaws in the film are in there, but they are kind of the usual predictable rom-com cliches. And, I mean, they've been done before, yes, but it doesn't ruin the ebb and flow of the movie. I honestly would say it's one of the stronger romantic comedies to come out in the last 20 years. I think it's a much better movie than people let on. It's a great new take on A Christmas Carol, and it can be viewed any time of the year and really enjoyed. Kind of like how high-concept comedies with Bill Murray, like Scrooge and Groundhog Day, gave him a chance to do more dramatic roles in his comedies, and he went on to become a really good dramatic actor with the films I talked about before, Lost in Translation and Broken Flowers. I mean, McConaughey has been on a hot streak since this movie came out, with The Lincoln Lawyer, his Oscar-winning turn in Dallas Buyers Club, and True Detective. I mean, so many great films that he's been in since then, and you can really say that it started with this movie because of the fact that, he wasn't just doing the typical rom-comedy trope that he used to do all the time. Like, he has evolved as an actor and gone back to his roots, and it paid off big time for him that decade with an Oscar win and much more respectability from his peers and his fans in general. This is a film that's definitely worth another look at, man. Ghost of Girlfriend's Past is a really damn good movie. One I highly recommend checking out. It's one of the best romantic comedies of the last 20 years. It's one I highly recommend checking out. Definitely seek this one out if you can. Ghost of Girlfriend's Past. Watch it. You'll enjoy it. So let's go ahead and move back to some garbage as we wrap this one up here, and that is the Battle for Terra.
Men and women of Earth Force, the future depends on us.
On the planet Terra. What is that? Lies mankind's last hope.
The mistake would be not to act. Now.
Oh dear.
On May 1st,
Fire at that ship!
Now, no need for violence.
an ultimate 3D battle
Return fire!
begins. Battle for Terra. Rated PG in theaters and really 3D May 1st.
By God, they tried. I mean, they really did try with this movie, but yeah, trying didn't help you out in the long run on this one. It's another one of those movies from a very small studio, that Lionsgate was at the time. I mean, trying to copy in the footsteps of Disney and DreamWorks, trying to make the next big 3D CG extravaganza, and this just wasn't it, man. And once again, one of those movies that was put in 3D after the production had been completed. And it kind of hurts in the long run here. You have a story that's based on a short film of the same name about a race of beings on a peaceful alien planet who face destruction from colonization by the displaced remainder of the human race. And you have a cast that includes Evan Rachel Wood, Brian Cox, James Garner, Luke Wilson, Chris Evans, Danny Glover, Amanda Peet, David Cross, Justin Long, Dennis Quaid, Luke Wilson, and yeah, it's one of those movies where, again, they tried to copy the DreamWorks formula, the Disney formula. Let's pack in as many stars as we can, and let's put the movie in 3D, even though this was not made for 3D release, and the results speak for themselves. But this is definitely one of the better attempts to try to create something, and it almost gets there, but it falls into pretty much the same problem that not just with animated movies that are trying to start new franchises, but sci-fi films that are trying to start new franchises have a lot of trouble with. Like, they already feel like they got to plan ahead for future movies before they even work on the first damn movie. That's the biggest problem with a movie like this. Like, this is a film that's clearly setting itself up for a series of movies that's never going to come. They never made any sequels to this. The film was a massive flop at the box office, and yeah, they can make the argument and say that, oh, well, we opened it up on the same weekend as Wolverine and Matthew McConaughey's new romantic comedy. Yeah, you knew it was going to be bad from the get-go, and that's why you put it on there in the first damn place. And yeah, lo and behold, the film didn't end up working out in anyone's favor. And again, there are some good ideas in here, and the animation isn't terrible overall, but it's when they have to go down that route of, we got to copy the same stuff that's been done in other sci-fi movies of every kind, and we got to set up for a sequel that will never happen. That's where the movie kind of loses me, and let's just pack it in with all these big stars, because the stars are what make the movie in general. I mean, clearly that's the case, because, you see it now with DreamWorks' animated movies and Disney's animated films. Oh, wait, they don't do that, because Disney and DreamWorks are reliable names at this point. I mean, they don't have to put all the names on there. Even Sony Pictures didn't have to do that at one point. I mean, they did early on with Open Season. You saw Martin Lawrence and Ashton Kutcher's name on there, but I don't think they did it with Surf's Up, nor did they do it with the film that comes out later in the year with Cloudy and the Chance of Meatballs. I mean, this is a film that's trying so hard to be up there with those tier studios, but they didn't think about working on this one film first and then advancing it to a potential sequel. Like, set it up for a potential sequel after this movie's probably going to make money, because this thing didn't make any money. It came and went, and it's a small budgeted film, and I'll give it this, for a small budgeted film, it looked pretty much better than something like Dogo. I mean, for an $8 million movie, this looks a lot better than the $50 million Dogo did. I mean, Dogo's one of those ones where it's just like, where did $50 million go on that pile of garbage? So yeah, overall, a film that's better than it probably should have been, but not enough for me to say it's one you should check out. Biggest problem with it is it's trying to set up too much stuff for a series of films instead of just focusing on the one movie in general. And even the stuff that they have in here, it's not enough to save the film at all. It's a predictable, bland story. The animation is better than should be, and yeah, some of the voice acting is okay, but other than that, though, I'm never going to watch this movie ever again, so So yeah, mostly negative, but mixed opinion on Battle for Terra, yeah. So go ahead and avoid that one. And so with that said, we are done with this episode of Time About the Movies, and we are off on the summer movie season. Didn't get off to the best start this week, but we will certainly get off to the better start next week, because our next movie coming up to start the next week off is J.J. Abrams' long-awaited reboot of the Star Trek series, which really took a lot of people by surprise. Nobody expected this to be as good as it ended up becoming, but we'll take a look at that one, and we'll also take a look at Next Day Air, the movie that had the balls to go up against this as counter-programming, and maybe did a lot better than most people expected, but not enough to tell people that this is a great movie, maybe. But we'll delve more into that one when we get to next week's episode. So we'll take a look at those two movies, Star Trek and Next Day Air, coming up tomorrow on the show. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and hit the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And also, don't forget to hit that like button, the subscribe button, the notification button, and the bell, because you get updates on my new videos when they come out, and we do post new videos here every day. So, with all that said, I'm off. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.